YouTube, what is up? The US did it. They get out of their group. They beat Australia. It's exciting. There is so much to talk about. So thanks for joining us live alongside Darian Jenkins and Sandra Herrera. I'm Lisa Carlin. If you didn't know already, we've been nominated for a People's Choice Podcast Award, Best Female Hosted Podcast, and it is all because of you, the people that like these videos, subscribe, follow us, everything. Today's the last day to vote. So head on over to podcastawards.com and nominate Attacking Third to advance to the final round of voting under the Best Female Hosted Podcast Awards. If you're with us live on YouTube right now, hit up that QR code. The link is also in our description. We've got a full U.S. versus Australia match day 3 out of the group stage recap coming for you. You are not going to want to miss this. Hey everyone, welcome into Attacking Third for a very special United States Women's National Team Olympics recap episodes. We have just finished match day 3 of the group stage. The United States took on Australia, big rivals between these two. However, the U.S., they get the 2-1 dub over the Aussies, and they are advancing. They top their Group B. They are advancing to the quarterfinal, and they will take on Japan August 3rd alongside Darian Jenkins and Sandra Herrera. I'm Lisa Carlin. Ladies, what a game did we have today? I need initial thoughts and reactions. Sandra, I'm starting with you. U.S., they get the win, but what did you make of this match?
I think a good final test, honestly, to go through to the knockout rounds. I think there were still a ton of questions that were being asked of this team heading into this Olympic tournament. And match day 1, 2, and 3 provided many answers in terms of different challenges. So congrats to them. Absolutely. We're going to have a good time on the show today because 9 points, 3 dubs going into knockouts. Feels good.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a great win for the U.S. Each game brought different lessons, different asks, different styles that I think the U.S. was able to adapt to. And even with getting scored on, are able to ride out a game and come out on top. And these are the challenges we wanted to see in the Olympics. So going to the next round, I'm hyped. I feel very, very confident in this U.S. squad.
This is exactly the challenges we wanted to see. Sandra, you said it, 9 points, the U.S. topped their group. And this is the first time U.S. women's national team, is a first women's team to win all 3 group stage matches in multiple Olympics. They did it in 2012 and now in 2024. Huge props to them. Shout out to Audrey for that note on that one as well. Okay, let's dive into it because there's a lot we have to get into and unpack. Let's start with starting 11s. Well, we're going to start with Australia for this match. They lined up in one formation and played a different one, but it was Mackenzie Arnold in goal, Steph Catley, Claire Hunt, Alana Kennedy, Ellie Carpenter across the back line, Katarina Gorey and Caitlin Torpey in the midfield, Haley Rosso, Kyra Cooney-Cross, Caitlin Ford, and Mary Fowler, the attacking players up top. Meanwhile, for the United States, we talked about potential subs, what was going to change. We saw Emma Hayes roll out with the same 2 starting lineups in the first 2 matches. Only one change in this third group stage match, guys, and it's a forced substitute. Tierna Davidson, defender, still not available. She was out with a leg contusion. She came out midway through match day 2. So because of that, Emily Sams gets her first official roster call-up. She is a second-year player in the NWSL with Orlando Pride, but there's only one change because of that Davidson injury. Emily Sonnet slots in. Otherwise, it's the same 10 rolling out there for Emma Hayes. Alyssa Nair in goal, Crystal Dunn, Emily Sonnet, Naomi Girma, and Emily Fox across the back line, Sam Coffey, Lindsay Horan, and Rose Lavelle in the midfield, with the trifecta up top. Mallory Swanson, Sophia Smith, and Trinity Rodman. Darian, you expected Emma Hayes to have rotation in her starting lineup, but we didn't get it. Why don't you think we saw any rotation?
I was wrong. I was so wrong, ladies. I'll be the first. And whoa, was I incorrect? It makes a lot of sense because, like we touched on in the beginning, I think Australia was going to offer something totally different from what we saw Germany and Zambia go against the U.S. I think they were such a different threat. They were sitting in a 5-2-3 formation and sort of a lower mid-block, low-block press at the U.S., and they really had to adapt. So wanting to focus on building those partnerships that going into the next round are going to be key on how to break teams down. How do you problem solve? How do you keep building chemistry when Australia is making it really, really difficult to go down the middle of the park or even get close to around the 18 without moving the ball incredibly quickly? Great combination play. You need that chemistry. You need the problem solving abilities together. So it makes a lot of sense. I still think the tired legs is a big factor going to the next round. Sam Coffey's no longer available for the next round against Japan. It's going to be interesting to see if she opts to change a little bit more playing against Japan, but I understand why she kept the same team, and I think it proved successful because once they got their feet on the ground, they're able to move the ball quicker. The combination play came. They broke Australia down and started creating more chances.
Sandra, did you want to change? Did you want to see changes in the starting 11?
Yeah, it was the final match day. I think we all, to some level, were like, surely there's going to be some adjustments or some changes that are going to happen in this final stage, especially because we've seen the last two lineups pretty much be identical. But I gotta say, like, sitting with this a little bit, a few minutes, kind of post game, and kind of how the game turned out, I think I'm okay with the group and going into the knockouts. But I do wonder, what it's going to look like in that quarterfinal with Emma Hayes and the coaching staff and their hand being forced once again to kind of maybe look at those changes. So we saw Emily Sonnet come in for Tierna Davidson, got the start today. It made me wonder who we were going to see kind of bumped up from that alternates list. Would we see Emily Sams? Would they lean more towards a defensive midfielder and Hal Hirschfeld? Obviously they ended up going with Sams, and I wondered if this was the game where we would finally see some minutes for Croy Bethune, who has been on that full roster for 3 solid days now. We got to see her come in at the end, so better late than never, because the never is now turning into knockouts, and some of these players that we got to see today get extended minutes off the bench might have even more increased minutes going into the quarterfinal.
On the broadcast, Julie Foudy, legendary U.S. player, a part of the 99 World Cup team, had talked about how Emma Hayes said that she wanted this group of 11 or 10, right, with swapping out Sonnet and Davidson, to have more time together and to build momentum. And that was why she wanted them to start, because they really hadn't had a lot of time together. I think it's the 4th or 5th time that those front three of Swanson, Smith, and Rodman had ever started together and played minutes together. So that was a really big factor in why Emma Hayes didn't have a lot of rotation, and also the expectance of Australia to sit back in a 5-2-3-1 or 5-3-2 essentially that they played was crazy. So it was a good game plan for the US because they knew they weren't going to be running as much, right? They weren't going to be having to play this really big transitional game. It was just going to come down to a lot more patience and looking to break down Australia's block. But in the opening 5 minutes, 3 minutes into this match, Sam Coffey, midfielder for the U.S., gets a second yellow card. So her and Rodman were sitting on yellows coming into this match. And I had a feeling that one of them were going to get a second one. I did not expect it to be 3 minutes into this match. Now Sam Coffey is suspended for the quarterfinals. After the quarterfinals, the yellows reset. So that to me was a little bit like, okay, we might need to be a little bit more cautious with Coffey and Rodman because they are sitting on yellows, and now we're without Coffey. Darian, were you like, how much do yellow cards play a factor in playing time and as a player, knowing if you're sitting on one and you get another one? How much of a factor is that?
It's so situational because Coffey is such a force in that 6 position. It's so hard to take her off. So yes, knowing she may get this yellow, but we're just going to risk it and keep playing her because you have to focus on the here and now. You have to get the win. And although the U.S. didn't need it, it's still building what you said that Julie Foudy quoted Emma Hayes, building that chemistry, giving these players time together who's really going to get those minutes in the critical games. It's a big bummer that Coffey's not going to be there. I wonder if Albert's going to be the one to go into that position, or you pull Haran down, but I think Haran's better higher up. I actually think she doesn't do that great with this new style they're playing at that 6 position. Yeah, it's a huge loss, but you have to focus on the here and now, and she was the player to do it then.
Yeah, I think at one point during the game, my reaction was that the inexperience is kind of showing itself a little bit on the final match day, and I think that in itself is maybe a little bit of the questions that were present and maybe the answer that was delivered. I think I echoed something similar for Germany, where it was like they needed to have a game to show that they were going to be okay without Lena Oberdorf, and they had that in the group. And maybe the United States needed a match, not just for the players who are in their first ever Olympics, but maybe even the coaching staff who are newer to the program, to kind of see how they were going to handle these types of game scenarios. So now another one presents itself, but I don't think any of us could have predicted that Sam Coffey, headed on a yellow heading into the final match day, was going to pick up another yellow within the opening 3 minutes. Look, it's not uncommon for a defensive midfielder to go out there, get some fouls, and pick up a yellow, right? You don't ever want to pick up two in the same game. But I think Coffey has presented herself and kind of cemented her role in this Olympics. I think she's been average. I think she's been average Sam Coffey. And an average Sam Coffey is good, actually. An average Sam Coffey is maybe better than some other midfielders in the world. But I think when those very unique game scenarios kind of present themselves, we saw a little bit of that inexperience today. So maybe knowing and telling your defensive midfielder, hey, like, try to have a good game. You're on a yellow. There's a possibility that you can get another one, but make sure you try not to get one, and then goes out there and picks one up in the opening 3 minutes. It's tough. And now the coaching staff is they rolled that dice. They made that gamble, and now they're gonna have to try to figure things out without her going into the knockout rounds.
Sandra, you mentioned Coffey. You think she's average these games, especially through these first 3 matches. What would make her be above average?
Well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see for the semifinal now, hopefully. But I'd like to see a little bit better defensive recognition. I think some of the fouls that we've seen out of Coffey, I think we can agree, maybe some of them have been a little unnecessary at times. Probably the biggest glaring example of that was the one in the opening 3 minutes of this game. But I think that in itself comes with experience. And I think it goes back to what we were speaking a little bit on with Emma Hayes and her wanting to get this particular set of 11 players more time together, not just to get familiar with each other, but also to make sure that they're getting these very crucial in-game major international tournament type of experiences. So hopefully they get the job done in the quarterfinals and we get to see that improvement from Coffey.
I do think it's a big lesson for her, because you watch her, a big gift she has is that she's kind of got one speed and she's not going to slow down. I respect it. It's intimidating. It's infectious for everybody else to play off of. But you're totally right. In these moments, you have to have some nuance to your game. You have to slow down. The ball's higher up the pitch or in the middle of the park. US is not worried in these moments. It's the opening 3 minutes. It's not the time to make a bad tackle or a foul. Just move your feet, shuffle around the ball, get in the line of where the next pass is going. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really big lesson she looks back on.
Darian, how much of it is in the opening 5 minutes of a game, especially as a defensive midi, to be like, I'm getting stuck into tackles and I am showing this opposition, don't mess with me.
Yeah, you want to set the tone. That position, that's why players like her, Emily Sonnet, Andy Sullivan, they are the heavy hitters. Yeah, heavy hitters on a team where, you know what, we're setting the tempo. The ball's not getting here. Defense, relax. There's nothing going on. Like, nothing's getting through. Yes, that's great to have, but this was not a time where, that is a position where I'm like, I don't think she should have started, but I understand the logic behind wanting her to get those minutes. But now we're going to miss her in a game versus Japan, where I think she would thrive, and maybe we'd see that Sam Coffey we're used to seeing, where she has to move around quicker, has to have her ball distribution at that pace of her passes that we're used to seeing, which, Sandra, I agree. I don't think we saw that same high level quality that we're used to or accustomed to seeing with Sam Coffey.
It's almost a tale of, or like a double-edged sword, because we can look back and say, yeah, you shouldn't have started her, right? Or maybe you should have given her less time. But she also could have gone the 90 minutes, just like Rodman, and not picked up a yellow and been fine moving forward. Hey, that's why we play the game, and that's why us three are not getting paid the big bucks like Emma Hayes to coach this women's national team. But the U.S., they get the 2-1 win over Australia. We didn't even talk about the goals, the first half, the second half, anything that's happened. But don't worry, we will. We are breaking it all down. Don't go anywhere. More attacking third. When we get back, we're diving into all the goals that happened. Welcome back to Attacking Third. The U.S. defeat Australia 2-1 in their final match day to top their group. They advanced to the quarterfinals, and they're moving on. They're playing Japan. But let's talk about this match. 3 goals in this one. The first one coming in the 43rd minute by Trinity Rodman. Then Corbin Albert, a stunner in the 77th minute. And Australia climbs back in the stoppage time at the end of the game, 92nd minute. Alana Kennedy gets one to try to crawl back for Australia, but not good enough for the Aussies. The U.S. get the win. We have to talk about this first half and the way that this match opened up, because in the first 5 minutes, it was very evident that Australia was going to sit back, put a low block there, and force the U.S. to create their own chances. Darian, as a player, when you see that low block, what's automatically the game plan for you and for the U.S. in this instance?
I think there's going to have to be so much rotations in the front line to be able to move that low block out, especially in the midfield, because like we said, Australia had like a 5-2-3, and then one player would pick their moments to press and try to funnel the ball into that crowded space. But they were successful when Mallory Swans and Sophia Smith popped on the outside of those 2 holding mids for Australia. I wish I had like a tactical board or something. I'm just using my hands a lot. But popped on the outside shoulder, and it was able to draw those midfielders out. And then when the U.S. had quick combination play, they didn't hold on to the ball long. They were able to switch the point of the field either 2 or 3 times. That's when they started to create those chances. So you're going into this game, you see them in a low block. It's super tight, super organized. Australia is a very fit team. They were able to do it for most of the match. You know you have your work cut out for you, and your precision on the ball has to be key. The pace of your passes has to be quick, because they're going to overshift and block out any lanes, any dribbling patterns you could possibly have going into the attacking third or the 18. So I think the U.S., it was a really good test. They had moments where combination play showed itself. There was one with Rodman, Horan, and Lavelle where sometimes the person on the ball didn't see the layoff. The ball wasn't played at the right time or with the correct pace, and it would have broken Australia's entire press, their entire 11 press. But it was a really good test. I think we saw them have moments where they could see with each other where they weren't linking correctly. But I think they're just going to keep building. It's exactly what Emma Hayes has been talking about as being a big principle of theirs, with the ball speed, being patient, the combination play, and really just picking and choosing the right moments to actually break a team down and attack.
The last time the U.S. saw a low block was in their final send-off match against Costa Rica just a few weeks ago before they headed to Paris. And Sandra, the U.S. never scored in that match. It was 90-minute 0-0 draw at the end of it. It did not take the U.S. nearly that long to find their first goal. The 43rd minute, and Trinity Rodman gets one. We expect it in a low block, the U.S. to take their time, right? You can't expect goals in the opening 10 minutes immediately from a low block. But 43rd minutes in, were you like, all right, let's go, girls. Let's get one, Trin?
Yeah, I was here for it. And look, it's not like they didn't try. We saw them getting into dangerous spaces, even getting a look or two on goal, I think within those opening 10 or 11 minutes. So even when presented with that low block, the fact that they recognized it and they wanted to make sure that they set the tempo and start the game a certain kind of way, I thought was a good sign for things to come. And obviously, once you recognize that you're getting faced with that low block, yeah, maybe it sets in the mental part of your game where you're like, okay, we're going to have to be a little bit more patient with things, which is something that has, Emma Hayes has kind of preached for this national team, especially as this attack kind of continues to grow game after game after game. So I think that was something that was, I was paying attention to, and I was like, okay, they could still do enough here to maybe get one, at least in the opening half. And they did exactly that. And I don't know. I think if you're Australia, I mean, Tony Gustin is no stranger to the U.S. women's national team, right? So I'm kind of wondering if maybe in his own experiences, he's just like, you know what USA has always struggled with, and what I remember when I was there, low blocks. Let's just do that. And it kind of looked a little bit like that was the game plan. And just sort of echo, Darian's analysis already. It wasn't exactly effective in the ways I think in which they were hoping. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Trinity Rodman, who helped kind of unlock some things there. Rose Lavelle as well. I thought she was effective in winning corners and being that kind of extra open lane for them. I know we've talked about Rodman game after game. I almost sort of feel like this particular match might have been her best one, but it was a good challenge for them for sure. That's called growth. No goals against the low block Costa Rica. 2 goals against the low block Australia. You love to see it.
Exactly. You do love to see it. It's this first 20 minutes of the match. I was a little bit surprised that the U.S. didn't take their chances in transition when they could, because there were moments when Australia did look to attack, right? It would be a little bit of a picked off pass in their defensive end, and then Australia would look to go to goal. U.S. would win it back. And there's a moment where I was like, they're slowing down when they have Rodman on the right flank. Just go. It's 50 minutes into the game. Let's see if you can get in behind. And immediately that would pull Australia out, because Australia only needed a draw to advance and to be one step closer to advancing to the knockout rounds. But the U.S. really felt like they had a game plan that was to be patient and to find the right passes and to poke and to prod. And it was going to be a slower slog of a game, and the U.S. dominating 20 minutes in, having 70% possession. But the chances were coming. And until the 43rd minute, when Rodman did ultimately get her second goal of the tournament, leading up to that, there were a number of chances. In the 38th minute, Crystal Dunn had a rocket of a shot. She was late coming into the attack on a little bit of a transition that the U.S. slowed down. And then, bam, Haran had an opportunity on the back post. The U.S. felt like they kept knocking, and they were about to break down the door. And ultimately it came from Trinity Rodman off a corner kick, the 5th one for the United States. It was Smith to Rodman, a little back post hustle. She made sure that no ball was left untouched, and Rodman gets a little touch at the end of it. Then the game went to VAR for this call, Sandra. There was some confusion. What happened? Do you know what happened? I know you also were in Paris on the touchline, but what do you know about what happened at this VAR call? Can't hear you, bud.
I know what everyone else knows. What was that even happened? Following along on the feed like everyone else. I mean, apparently it was technical difficulties that came into play. Enough technical difficulties that frustrated that Australia bench, and they earned a yellow card because of that frustration that they were expressing on the sideline. Shout out to the production crew for making sure that they were getting all of that animated energy to see Gustafson so frustrated, and then Emma Hayes fist pumping at the fact that she was getting an explanation on VAR. But I think mostly checking for Sam Coffey in an offside position on that one. But I think the touch from Sophia Smith at the same time lining up with shoulders ended up being an okay goal for Rodman. And
it was so chaotic. There was so many things happening in that moment, and it looked like the 4th official told them, hey, it's a goal. And then the 4th official or then the main referee goes back to VAR to check it. Whatever. The goal
day for VAR.
Is one of those days. The U.S. head into halftime up a goal 1-0 over Australia thanks to Trinity Rodman. That is the 16th goal scored under Emma Hayes, 14 of them coming from the combo of Mallory Swanson, Trinity Rodman, and Sophia Smith. Headed into the second half. It looks good. Don't go anywhere. We're talking about it next. Hey, welcome back to Attacking Third. U.S. get the 2-1 win over Australia. They head into halftime up a 0 thanks to Trinity Rodman in the 43rd minute. At halftime, we only get one sub, Darian. Jenna Neiswanger subs in for Crystal Dunn. Then the U.S. is playing in their second 45 minutes. What did you make of the second half? What did you expect from the U.S., and what did you ultimately see from them?
Well, I liked the sub of Neiswanger in for Dunn. Dunn was high up the field a lot, looking to combine, and I think Neiswanger, we saw coming into the Olympics, Neiswanger and Swanson had a really, really good connection and chemistry in matches, breaking teams down, their little flicks and tricks, combination play to get each other into the 18. But Jenna Neiswanger's service is what I wanted to see more of when she came into the match. I thought with Australia being in this very condensed, crowded low block, especially in the 18, could have used her left foot and her precision and the ball she can put into the 18. But it was good. I think the U.S. built on what they were doing in the first half, just moving the ball quickly. And I put down, I think there was 5 or 6 times where the U.S. were so successful if they switched the ball 2 times. Whether it was they were skipping some passes, they played a little bit longer to stretch Australia out, and then combined to get looking a little bit more dangerous, is where ultimately the second goal came from with Albert. I was happy to see it, and I think that it was a really good game plan for them. And I also like that Australia finally came out of their low block and decided to play. I actually think the game may have been a lot different for Australia if they came out the way that they did the last 20 minutes and just put pressure on the U.S. back line. And credit to the U.S. back line, I think they dealt with it well, but Australia is a good team. I almost wish they didn't respect the U.S. so much where they were so deep, because they could have put 1 or 2 more away even just the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, I think that was maybe one of those, maybe not question marks around the team, but one of those narratives around this team. I think we've heard it even since before last year's World Cup, right? That the game is catching up, that the globe is tides are rising across the globe in terms of investment in women's soccer. And, by that means the world is no longer scared of the U.S. and all of that. They're a little bit scared when you're playing in a low block like that. There's a little bit to say there. So I like that they've been presented with this in a couple matches over the last month or so with Costa Rica and now Australia, because to Darian's point, Australia is a good team. This is a program that is coming off of, what is it, 3 consecutive 4th place appearances, and in terms of global championships, whether it's been at a World Cup level or an Olympic level. So they are no strangers to playing in high stakes tournaments and taking it to other teams. So, and not being able to kind of see a little bit more, on the pitch and on that side of things, I think is maybe a little bit disappointed. But there's no doubt the second half maybe kind of, when you're running out of time, you're running out of time. So we got to see a little bit more there from them as well. But I love the response from the team across all the lines. And I think the subs, obviously, from match day 1 to match day 3, talking about growth over the course of the tournament, we see that growth even in substitutions as well, because in match day 1, we were talking about how we didn't really see players be too effective on the pitch against Zambia. And we're not necessarily feeling that type of way here on match day 3 against Australia. The substitutions came in and were absolutely a point of effective play for Emma Hayes on the final match day, from Corbin Albert the way to Krueger.
What was that, G?
Shout out to Kasey Krueger as being an effective sub. For me, she's been the game changer coming into matches. I mean, the last ditch tackle, she's putting life and limb in the 18 to block shots. She's all over the pitch. Her 1v1 ability is great. She, for me, has been the ultimate game changer coming into the match.
Yeah, Kasey Krueger subbed on in the 60th minute, as well as Lynn Williams and Corbin Albert, taking out Emily Fox, Trinity Rodman, and Rose Lavelle. After that sub came, that's when the U.S. took their lead even deeper, getting their second goal. It was a bit of a poor clearance by Australia ultimately, and an incredible shot by Corbin Albert in the 77th minute, and a huge moment for the U.S. to double the lead. And after that moment, things definitely changed for Australia. I think they realized, oh crap, we have to continue to score goals. We have to get back into this, because the Aussies only needed a draw in order to help their chances of advancement. And as soon as that second goal happened, it felt like Australia was like, okay, let's play now. Let's play more. And they put pressure under the United States, putting a high press on them, forcing the US to problem solve in their build out and how they were going to continue to develop the ball. And those subs, I think, proved that they are good game changers in those moments. And to give a rest to someone like a Rose Lavelle and not take a Sam Coffey out. Hey, she's already on a second yellow. She's missing your next game. Let her play. She's going to rest the rest of the next match. We got more subs. In the 80th minute, Croy Bethune, midfielder, makes her Olympic debut. She's been on the full roster in replace of Jaden Shaw for the entire group stage. And she gets 10 minutes at the end of this match, taking out Mal Swanson. So now it is Lynn Williams, Croy Bethune, and Sophia Smith up top. Darian, did you like what you saw from Croy? I mean, what'd you see from her? Tell us.
Ladies, her first touch was a brilliant through ball to Lynn Williams. I mean, she plays with the swagger of a veteran. Like, she's been a part of this US Women's national team, and she's just been waiting for her opportunity to come in and get some lucrative minutes. I was very impressed with her, as we all continuously are, every single time we see her on the pitch for club or country. I think this was a great, great nod from Emma Hayes for her to come in and just get those minutes. We know that Swanson definitely could have played 90. She's a fit player, but I think to show that there's a lot of confidence and trust in Croy Bethune in a moment like this against an Australian side was massive for her. And I can't wait to see. I hope that she gets more minutes going into the next round. I think she's a player that maybe her and Rose, seeing them play off of each other, would be so fun to watch. And I don't think a team would be able to stop the two technical technicians that they are going up against them.
I want to see Croy play with Mal Swanson. I think they would play really well together because they're similar in terms of their vision of the play and how the development of the attack happens. You can see it in their eyes and how they're watching it. We didn't get to see it today, but maybe another option.
Not enough time, I think, to have that much of an impact on the pitch, but you could see it. You could just see the small threads of what Bethune could bring. So who knows? We'll get to see more.
And finally, I mean, she's been on the full roster. I'm glad that Hayes said, okay, let's go. Make your Olympic debut. Let's see what you can do. And there were options and chances. Smith had a double post shot that happened.
That was crazy.
It was crazy. US almost
was crazy
in that moment and put away the game. They don't, though. There's an opportunity for Australia. They score. Australia climbs back in at the stoppage time at the end of this game. The U.S. hold on, and they get the 2-1 win over Australia. We've got plenty more to talk about, though, because teams have been eliminated. The U.S. moves on. Who are they playing next? Which third-place teams are advancing? Don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about it next. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Attacking Third. U.S. get the 2-1 win over Australia. The Australia climbs back in the stoppage time to get one against the United States, but it's just not good enough. The U.S. advance. They top their group in Group B. Germany places second in Group B because that match was also happening simultaneous. We're going to talk about some of the teams that have advanced out of the group stage and are moving on to the quarterfinal. Heading into match day 3, Spain had already qualified for the knockout rounds, as had the United States. But this was an opportunity in match day 3 to determine what seedings these teams were going to get. Spain, they end up topping their Group C, and then the United States top Group B. Germany, they pick up second place in Group B, and Japan pick up second place in Group C. So that means Japan is going to take on the United States, 9 a.m. Saturday, August 3rd. Make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube because we will be going live immediately following that match. But when we look at kind of who qualifies and who gets out, it comes down to points, goal differential, goals scored, head-to-head, goal differential in matches between the games, and then so on and so forth for all of these tiebreakers. Let's start with Group US and Germany. Germany, they advance out of their group in second place, getting the 4-1 win over Zambia today. And now they will advance to continue to play. Darian, this is a German side that the US faced in their group stage, and now they advance onto the quarterfinals. What do you expect from Germany in the knockout rounds of this tournament?
To come out swinging. I think we've seen them build from each game that they played, and then to have more of a resounding win is really good for them in going into the next round. I think we saw moments of brilliance from them against the US, a team that, yes, is still feared, as Sandra said earlier, still very feared, but they're not afraid to come out and try and create opportunities. I think we've been talking a lot about how Germany leading into this tournament just didn't look like the squad that we're used to seeing. And I think we're finally seeing that. Them come out, take opportunities, finish them, and then just look solid in the back. So I would be intimidated to go against Germany going into the next round, because I think we've just seen them level their game up after every single match.
Germany, they will advance and play at 1:00 on Saturday, August 3rd. They will play the second place team in Group A. Those matches are currently happening while we're live right now. So Colombia is taking on Canada and New Zealand is taking on France. But let's talk a little Group C, Sandra. Spain tops their group, and then Japan also gets out of their group, finishing second. Spain, they beat Brazil 2-0 earlier today, and Japan beat Nigeria 3-1. Let's talk Japan, because this is a team that has looked really good, a little bit streaky at times. But what do you make of Japan heading into these knockout rounds?
I think they're the team, maybe alongside Spain and USA, who actually look like they're getting a little bit stronger as the tournament goes on. So I would maybe disagree a little bit in that I think they're kind of getting it together at the exact right time. So I think this is a Japan side that's going to be very difficult to go up against. I think they showed exactly who they are a bit more against Nigeria. We have to shout out Super Falcons for finally getting a goal in the back of the net. I know they've been struggling at the international level to try to get that done. So I think maybe a consolation there for them. But to walk away with the 3-1 win heading into knockouts, I think that's exactly where you want to be if you're Japan. They're a team that are showing that they're not only very technical on the ball, but this is a Japan side that have kind of quietly in the background kind of reinvented themselves a little bit. Their program has gone through some growing pains as well. And now we're not just seeing them as these kind of very technical, savvy type of players, but they can bring some physicality too when it counts. So they're going to be a tough challenge for anyone.
I think in these types of tournaments, it's like, as you continue to play games, you want to continue to get better. You don't want to hit your peak until maybe the semifinal or the final, and that's when you're giving it all. I mean, Olympics across the board. I was watching those swimming heats earlier today for the semis. These players or these swimmers are only going half speed because they want to conserve a little bit. Maybe that's what we're seeing with Japan. But this result for United States getting the 2-1 win over Australia means that Brazil advances as one of the best third place teams. Yeah, Sandra, a big sweat wipe for them, because this is a Brazilian side that struggled during this tournament. They end up losing today to Spain, falling 2-0, and Marta, the legend, gets a red card. So they are advancing, but they're without Marta, Darian. It's almost like a catch-22 for Brazil. You're happy for them, but you're so sad for Marta.
Oh, I hope that they use that as extra motivation to bring it in the next stage, because when that foul happened, I was like, she's out. She's gone. There's no way she's staying on the pitch, even though it's Marta. That was as clear as day a red that could have been given. And she knew right away as well. She was devastated, as was the team around her. But I hope that a big reason why they brought her there, even if she's not on the pitch, is that it's freaking Marta. She can rally the team and lead this team from the bench, from the stands, just knowing that she's there. This is her last tournament with the Brazilian team. So I hope that they're able to level up, be much cleaner on the ball. That was just a rough game to watch, especially down to just 10 players. But I really hope they can turn that, use it as motivation, not let it dampen their spirits, because they are so fortunate to be going through. Spain absolutely dominated that game against Brazil earlier today.
So Brazil is one of the best third place teams advancing. We get one more team that advances, and it is all up in the air because Group A is currently competing Canada against Colombia and New Zealand against France. So there are possibilities here for Australia to advance and also for Canada to advance. Canada just needs a win over Colombia in this match right now. I want to know from both of you, who is the other third place team advancing? Sandra, I'm going to start with you.
Oh boy. I think Canada might find a way. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Wow. I also think Canada. I do. This team, like we said on Attacking Third on Monday, think the mindset for these players is it's us versus everybody. And I think that they have the tenacity to do it despite all the BS that's gone on for them in this tournament. This is a very special team, and I think that they'll be able to overcome it and do it.
So whoever that team is, if it is Canada, they could potentially take on Spain. That match happening Saturday at 11. Insane. Insanity.
Wait, Lisa, who do you think is going through?
Yeah, hold on.
You can't just
hold on.
I think Canada is going to do it. I do. Yeah. I just think that there's an extra level of intensity and grit and want for this players to prove themselves based on all of the drone spying scandal that has come out that they want to prove that they deserve.
We didn't put the jinx on them.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it more in the show on Monday. But don't go anywhere. We've got one more segment for you guys. Stick around. More Attacking Third right after this very quick break. Welcome back to Attacking Third. Unfortunately, there are some teams that have been knocked out today. Zambia, they fell to Germany, and Nigeria fell to Japan. That was a 3-1 loss. But these sides, impressive, Darian. I just want you to give some love to them. I know you like doing that to Zambia, Nigeria. I mean, what impressed you about these two nations during the Olympics?
Oh, it's so tough, you guys, because the African federations never set their teams up to succeed. Let's just call it like it is. These are incredible players. And to imagine what these national teams would be like, Nigeria, Zambia, there's plenty more, South Africa. These teams that if they were given the proper funding, the opportunities to train together, to play together, so that half of their camps get canceled, they would be such more fierce competitors. And despite all of that, they still are. As much as I wanted an African team to get through to the next stages, I'm very proud of them because I think that they've overcome so much. They're still dealing with so much, and they should all hold their heads up high. But yeah, my heart breaks for them a little bit, especially Zambia, because oh my God, can they score goals? It's just the defense. Nigeria, it's the opposite. Defense is so solid, life and limb for 90 minutes. It's just the inability to put away their chances. I hope that the Olympics and these major tournaments that we're seeing these African teams come in propels their federations to just do better for the players, for the future generations that are looking up to them and aspire to be in these positions. It just needs to be better set up for these players moving forward.
Absolutely. That is so well said. I mean, Zambia is so entertaining to watch. They're so entertaining to watch. And not just because of Banda, but the intensity that they play with and the knowledge of the game that they have, their intelligence on the ball and looking for those passes and finding those holes. And they had one of the most historic games against Australia, falling 5-6, but going up and taking that lead. They proved that they can compete and that they should be competing at these international levels. And every day, one step closer to getting there and to competing. But the U.S. does advance. They get out of their group and they are set to take on Japan, 9 a.m. on Saturday, Sandra. We'll be there watching it and previewing or recapping it, right here on YouTube. But what do you
say? We're going?
No, I wish we were
what?
Going.
Don't pump fake me like that. I got excited.
You could be our translator, Darian. Speak all the
exactly.
It wouldn't be. You could get by.
Exactly. That's all we need.
I would be there just eating the croissants, not helping at all with the language. But Sandra,
Yep.
what do you expect? Japan against the United States. What do you expect from this matchup?
Look, I expect obvious adjustments for the coaching staff because they're going to have to make them in light of the Sam Coffey yellow, and they're going to have a check-in probably with players who have been evaluated over the course of the group stage. Jaden Shaw has yet to make an appearance. She has been kind of day-to-day at this point. Tierra Davidson with that knee contusion. So I think there's going to be some rotations into this game. But that being said, I think this is a Japanese side that has shown that they can hang around and hover around and make things a little nervy for this United States women's national team. There's been some narrow score lines between them, and I wouldn't be surprised if the nerves of a knockout round present that again for the two teams. And it'll be on both sides of the pitch because Japan is a team that is trying to grow and advance themselves too. So there might be some feeling of the tempos of each other, feeling each other out, but I think it'll be a good game in the end, and hopefully a win for USA.
Oh, I like that.
I think it's going to be such a challenge for the US to break down Japan because they are so organized, they are so tactical. They're not afraid to give up possession and hit you on a counter. I mean, against Nigeria, a team that's had probably one of the worst bouts of possession throughout this tournament through the 3 games, had 56% possession over Japan. Yet, Japan had 17 shots in the match. I think the US is going to be very weary of when there are those transition moments because the style that Japan plays in is still so precise. It's executed so well. Yes, they're becoming so much more of a physical side to go up against. And I think it's going to be such a challenge for the US. It's exactly what the prelude to this match has been leading up to with what we've seen them have to deal with Zambia, Germany, and Australia. And I can't wait. It seems like the perfect lead up to this match against Japan.
I know. It's actually going to be a huge test for the United States because they really haven't played a team that is so comfortable with the ball, is so comfortable without the ball, is good in transition, is good combining and just working the ball around. Japan's good at everything, and they know how to manage games so well. It's almost like it'll be a mix of Germany and Zambia and all Australia and all the different teams that the U.S. has played in the group stage in this quarterfinal match. It'll be a big one. It'll be a test for the U.S. Can they do it? Defeat Japan? That match is happening August 3rd at 9 a.m. The other matchups happening, Brazil has advanced. They will play the winner of Group A. Spain has advanced. They will play either Australia or Canada, depending who advances. The U.S. is taking on Japan, and then Germany will play the runner-up in Group A. Germany is on the U.S.'s side of the bracket, but the U.S., they get the 2-1 win over Australia. Final thoughts from both of you. Darian, quickly.
They were great. I can't wait to see what's next. This is going to be a great matchup against Japan. I hope for a high-scoring game. I think it's going to be a lot of action.
Oh, I like it. High-scoring game. Sandra, final thoughts from you on U.S.-Australia.
Keep going. Don't stop. You're just getting stronger and stronger. Let's go. Let's go.
Emma Hayes, run it back for the team ahead of their match against Japan. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. We will be back in studio tomorrow previewing everything for the Olympics, plus so much more. And we'll be live on YouTube August 3rd following USA versus Japan. Thanks for joining us.